Hi, hold on. Beautiful. Okay, good morning. Hi, this is Ruben Ibrahimov. And I wanted to share with you that today is a Jewish holiday. And the holiday is called Lagba Omer. Now, it's not a log like um, a piece of wood. Log is an acronym for Lamed and Gimel. Lamed is numerically 30, and Gimel is 3. So it's the 33rd day of the counting of the Omer. Now, in recent years, people in Israel would go up towards the city of Meron, and they would have these huge bonfires and huge celebrations. And last night was a huge tragedy that over 44 people died in a trampling, in a stampede, when one of the um, stands fell down and 150 people on top of that got hurt. Okay, fine. Not okay, and let's move forward. This Omer is literally the harvesting of the new barley that took place on the second day. In other words, after Passover, Pesach in Israel is only one day holiday in biblical times and today. You had the sequence of events was as follows. Chag ha-Pesach was the holiday of Passover, which was on the 14th of the first month of the year, which is now called Nisan, a Babylonian name. The next day, the 15th of the month, you had a full moon, was Chag HaMatzot, the holiday of the matzah, the flatbreads, the crackers. Then, when you went to the land of Israel, you had this holiday called the Omer counting holiday. That began the Sefirat HaOmer, the counting of the Omer. And it said in the Bible that Mimacharat Shabbat, from after that first day of Passover, you will count Tispor Lachem Sheva Shavuot, 7 weeks. And that on the 50th day, what's the English name of the holiday of Shavuot weeks? Pentecost. Penta is 5 tens, cost, 50th day of counting from the first barley harvest, where they would go out in the field in Jerusalem, they would tie a bushel up, they would cut it, then they would grind it, they would bake it into bread with oil and frankincense, and they would go to the priest, the Kohen, and say, here, this is of the new flour, please bless it, and that would give us permission to partake from the new crops and not the old kemach yashan, old flour. Okay, so what's Lagba Omer? It was not in the Torah. It's not in the 5 books of Moses. It's post-biblical that the 33rd day of counting of the Omer on the way to the 50th day of Pentecost was a catastrophe that was happening about, let's just say, after the destruction of the Second Temple, which is roughly 2,000 years ago. I'm sorry, I'm not pinpointing it. A long time ago. And there was a rabbi who had the biggest yeshiva, had the biggest Hebrew school. His name was Rabbi Akiva. And he had exactly 24,005 students. And 24,000 of these students were dying. They died off, and the cessation of them passing away was on the 33rd day of the Omer, Lagba Omer, Lamed Gimel, 33 days into the Omer. So it was a great celebration that death had ceased. And then there were these 5 rabbis left. And one of them was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He is the one that had secluded himself with his son in a cave, and they studied the Kabbalah. They studied Jewish mysticism, and they wrote it down, and it became what is known as the Zohar. This is the mystical writings of the inner workings of the liaison between God and man. And they would meditate, the prophets, the Kabbalists would meditate, and they would achieve the presence of God. They would feel a holiness. So Lag BaOmer is the day where we stopped the mourning. Well, now we start mourning because of these people that passed away. But historically, the mourning stopped. MOURN, stopped. And the resumption of grooming ourselves, listening to music, enjoying ourselves, resumed until the end of this period of time on the Pentecost. Now, Shavuot was 7 weeks after Passover. It was also in biblical times, in the agricultural season, was known as Chag HaKatsir. The springtime holiday, the day of Passover, was Chag HaAviv, the springtime holiday, concurrent, simultaneous with Passover. And now you counted 7 weeks, and on the 50th day, you had what was known as the Chag HaKatsir, the harvest, the cutting of the grain. 80% of the diet in biblical times was grains, breads and cookies and other things. It was very, 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 very little meat, if any, and chicken and animals, and there was no fish, so to speak of. Yes, you had some fruits here and there, pomegranates and dates and some fruits. So now, this was the day where they had been cutting the grains. So starting, go roll back 7 weeks, there was 7 weeks of harvesting. First, the barley ripened, and then eventually the wheat ripened. The barley ripened in the southernmost meridian of Israel, and Israel was divided into 7 meridians. I hope I'm choosing the right word. And the first week, all the people that were doing the harvesting harvested for that week from east to west, north to south in that band, and they harvested, they cut down the ripened barley. Week number 2, boom, second zone. Cut it down, let it dry out in the field, and this progressed to the point where the wheat started ripening towards the end of the 7 weeks of harvesting, and there the grains, the wheat and the barley lay in the fields in the summer heat being dried out. Then what we know as Sukkot, or tabernacle, which is 6 months after Passover, you had the agricultural holiday named Chag HaAsif. You would bring in all the grain that had dried out over the summer and put them into storehouses, and there you grinded it up as needed, and you would bake fresh bread, and you would live on your land, in a land that God gave you property, where each and every person was born a have. Yes, there were some exceptions to the rule. So I wanted to share with you the biblical origins, which there are none, of Lag BaOmer, What I did share with you is what is the counting of the Omer. Sometimes we're making the blessing that every night for 49 days we're counting the Omer, Sfirat HaOmer. We have to revert back to actually what was being done. Because I just think, oh, this is the 33rd day of the Omer. That's not the point. The point is that the nation of Israel lived in the land of Israel when the temple stood, and it was important for them to count the days of harvesting until the 50th day of Pentecost, of Shavuot. I hope you learned something. I know I did. It puts me in a place of appreciation of Judaism and where we came from and what blessings that God provided for us. And God bless you all. And unfortunately, the sad news about these people passing away. And in the larger picture, this is the end of the first 33 days of what was sadness, exception to the rule this year, and going forward until the 50th day, we're looking forward to the holiday of Shavuot. God bless you all. Feel free to write me, call me. I'll see you soon.